Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm creating a cinematic sci-fi reconstruction animation in Blender using geometry nodes, shaders, and compositing. Along the way, I'll walk you through the complete workflow, including the model setup, particle animation system, cinematic lighting, volumetrics, compositing, and final rendering process. For this project, I started by generating the base model in Rodin 2.5. Rodin 2.5 can generate million polygon models in as little as 4 seconds and full models with native PBR materials in around 5 seconds. It's also the first AI 3D generator capable of creating models with over 10 million polygons and extremely high surface detail. For better consistency and accuracy, I uploaded the front, back, and left reference views of the character. Rodin 2.5 also includes different thinking effort levels. Extreme low can generate the geometry in around 4 seconds, but with less accuracy and detail. Extreme high takes much longer, sometimes around 80 seconds, but produces a much more refined result for close-up cinematic renders and highly detailed surfaces. For this project, I used the extreme high setting. After generating the model, I selected a quad topology with around 150,000 polygons to keep a good balance between detail and Blender performance. Then I generated the native PBR textures, which gave me clean, metallic, and emissive details directly on the model. Finally, I exported the model as a FBX file with 4K PBR materials and imported it into Blender. If you'd like to try Rodin 2.5 for yourself, you can register on the Hyper3D website and use my exclusive code to get an additional 14-day free trial. Once the model was ready, I imported the FBX file directly into Blender so I could start building the reconstruction animation. Since AI-generated models can sometimes contain overlapping vertices and non-manifold geometry, I quickly cleaned up the mesh in edit mode by selecting everything, pressing M, and merging the vertices by distance. Once the model was ready, I started building the geometry nodes setup that I was going to use for the reconstruction and disintegration animation. I switched to the geometry nodes editor and created a new geometry nodes modifier for the model. First things first, I added a Distribute Points on Faces node. This node generates points across the surface of the mesh, which makes it perfect for building particle-based effects and procedural animations. The density value controls how many points are generated across the surface of the mesh. As you can see, the points completely replaced the original model. So to keep both the mesh and the generated points visible at the same time, I added a Join Geometry node. Next, I added an Instance on Points node. This node lets me place another object on every generated point. Then, I used an icosphere as the instanced object. I connected a random value node to the scale input and lowered both the minimum and maximum scale values to keep the particles fairly small. This also creates natural size variation between the particles instead of making them all identical. After that, I increased the point density to get the particle coverage I wanted across the surface of the model. To control the appearance and disappearance of the particles during the animation, I connected the radius value of the icosphere to the Group Input node. Then, I selected the Group Input node, opened the side panel with the N key, and renamed the radius parameter to Particle Dissolve. I also set the minimum value to 0 and the maximum value to 1. Now, from the Geometry Nodes modifier panel, I can simply animate this Particle Dissolve slider to control when the particles appear and disappear. After that, I added a Set Position node. This node allows me to procedurally offset and animate the positions of the particles to create the disintegration effect. First, I added a Vector Math Multiply node to the offset input. Then I connected a Noise Texture node to one of the vector inputs using the color output. I also disabled the Normalize option so the particles could move farther and produce a much stronger disintegration effect. I connected the other vector input to the Group Input node and renamed it to Disintegration from the side panel. I set the variable type to float with a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 20. Now, from the Geometry Nodes modifier, I can use this slider to control both the disintegration and reconstruction animation of the particles. In the next step, I added a Store Named Attribute node to control the visibility and fade effect of the original model during the render. I connected it directly to the geometry input that represents the model before the Join Geometry node. I named the attribute Fade, then connected the value input to the Group Input node. From the side panel, I renamed this parameter to Fade Model and set the minimum value to 0 and the maximum value to 1. After that, I switched to the Shader Editor and added a Transparent shader. Then I combined it with the original principled shader using a mix shader node. To control the fade effect, I added an attribute node and typed the name of the attribute I created earlier, which was fade. Finally, I connected this attribute to the factor input of the mix shader so the model visibility could be controlled directly from the geometry node setup. In the next step, I created the glow effect for the blue areas of the model. First, I separated the main color channels using a separate color node and isolated the blue channel. Then I added an emission shader and placed a color ramp node in between to isolate the glowing regions. I changed the second color stop to blue and moved the black stop closer to it so only the bright blue areas would remain visible in the mask. Finally, I combined the emission shader with the main principled shader using an add shader node. Just like the fade setup, I added another attribute node and named the attribute glow. I connected the factor output to the strength input of the emission shader so the glow intensity could be controlled procedurally. Then, I went back to the Geometry Nodes editor and added another store-named attribute node with the same glow name. I connected the value input to the group input node and created a new slider called glow from the side panel. To make the emission effect much stronger, I also added a multiply node before the value input and multiplied it by 40. After that, I went back to the shader editor and created a new material slot called Particles. To assign this material to the particles, I returned to the Geometry Node setup and added a Set Material node, then selected the particle material I had just created. Back in the shader editor, I set the base color to white, increased the metallic value to 1, and lowered the roughness to 0.1 to create a cleaner reflective look. Then, I added an emission shader and combined it with the principled shader using a mix shader node. To control the blend effect, I added a layer weight node and set the blend value to 0.2. Finally, I used an object info node and randomized the emission strength using the random output. I also added a multiply node to boost the overall glow intensity of the particles. I temporarily hide the particles by setting the particle dissolve value to 0, then switched to render preview mode. For the scene lighting, I went to the World Properties tab and loaded a studio lighting environment texture. I also lowered the strength value to 0.7 to keep the lighting more controlled and cinematic. Next, I switched to Eevee in the render properties for much faster rendering and increased the render samples to 96 for a cleaner final result. I decided not to enable ray tracing here because the softer reflections reduced some of the sharp metallic detail and contrast. Finally, I enabled the transparent option in the film section so I could composite the background separately later on. In the next step, I added a camera to the scene and changed the focal length to 85 mm. I used a longer focal length here because it creates a much more cinematic look with less perspective distortion and stronger focus on the model details. After finding a good angle in the viewport, I aligned the camera. To make the model stand out more from the background and highlight the surface details, I also used Blender's built-in 3-point lighting add-on. I then increased the intensity of the back, fill, and key lights by about 3 times to create a much stronger cinematic contrast. In the next step, I added a cylinder to the scene and deleted the top and bottom faces so the environment lighting could still affect the scene properly. After that, I scaled the cylinder up so it completely surrounded both the camera and all the lights. In the shader editor, I created a new material for the cylinder. To build a soft gradient background, I added a linear gradient texture and used a color ramp node to create a transition between a dark blue and a slightly brighter blue tone. Finally, I adjusted the direction of the gradient using a texture mapping node. In the next step, I added a volumetric atmosphere to give the scene a more cinematic look. I started by adding a cube and scaling it up so it surrounded both the model and the camera framing. Then, in the shader editor, I created a new material for the cube. Instead of using a principled shader, I added a volume shader and connected it to the volume output of the material. To keep the effect subtle and avoid overpowering the model details, I lowered the density value quite a bit. I also added a noise texture and a color ramp node to create a soft, smoky atmosphere. Later on, I will animate the smoke movement using a mapping node. In the next step, I set the glow value to 1 and pressed F12 to render the image. As you can see, the glow effect was not visible in the final render yet. To fix that, I switched to the Compositing workspace and created a new compositor setup. For the glow effect, I added a glare node, changed the glare type to bloom, and set the quality to high. Then I increased the glare strength to 2 and lowered the glare size to 0.1 for a tighter and sharper glow effect. I also increased the saturation value. Finally, I rendered the scene once again. Once I was happy with the result, I moved on to the animation stage. Next, I switched to the animation workspace and selected the model so I could start animating the geometry nodes controls I created earlier. At the first frame, I turned the glow value completely down to 0 and added a keyframe by clicking the small dot next to the parameter. Then I moved to frame 80, increased the glow value to 1 and added another keyframe. At the same frame, I also added a keyframe for the fade value while it was still set to 1. After that, I moved to frame 100 and lowered the fade value to 0.3 before adding another keyframe. Finally, at frame 180, I reduced the fade value all the way down to 0 and added one more keyframe to completely hide the original model. At frame 100, I added a keyframe for the particle dissolve value while it was still set to 0. Then I moved to frame 160 and added another keyframe with the particle dissolve value fully set to 1, which gradually reveals all of the particles during the transition. Once that was done, I changed the timeline end frame to 650 and started animating the particle disintegration effect. At frame 180, I added a keyframe for the disintegration value while it was still set to 0. Then I moved to frame 360 and increased the disintegration value all the way up to 20 before adding another keyframe. Finally, I went to frame 540, set the disintegration value back to 0, and added one more keyframe to bring all of the particles back together during the reconstruction phase. A few frames before frame 540, I added another keyframe to start bringing the original model back into the scene. Then I moved to frame 600, set the fade value back to 1, and added another keyframe so the model would become fully visible again. At the same time, I animated the particles to dissolve between frames 550 and 600 so they would gradually disappear during the reconstruction process. Finally, from frame 600 to 650, I animated the glow value back down to 0 to smoothly power down the final energy effect. Next came the camera animation setup. First, I added an empty object and positioned it at the center of the model. Then I selected the camera, shift-selected the empty, and parented the camera using Ctrl-P. After that, I selected the camera again, went to the Constraints tab, and added a Track to constraint with the empty object set as the target. This setup allows me to control the entire camera orbit simply by rotating or moving the empty object while the camera automatically keeps looking at the model. With the empty object selected at the first frame, I pressed K and added a location and rotation keyframe. Then I moved to frame 80 and added another keyframe after slightly rotating and moving the empty to create a subtle cinematic drift at the beginning of the animation. After that, I went to frame 180, rotated the empty by roughly 45 degrees, and added another keyframe to begin the orbit movement around the model. To keep the camera stable during the particle phase, I added another keyframe at frame 510 using the same camera position and rotation. Then I moved to frame 600, rotated the empty again, and added another keyframe for the final reveal movement. Finally, I added one last keyframe at frame 650 to complete the camera animation. To make the render feel more cinematic, I added depth of field to the camera. In the camera settings, I enabled depth of field and selected the empty object as the focus target. Then I set the f-stop value to 2.4. In the Eevee render settings, I also increased the depth of field maximum size to 32 pixels for a stronger blur effect. Finally, I rendered the animation again to check the overall look. The depth of field effect helps separate the subject from the background and adds a much more realistic cinematic camera feel to the scene. I increased the glare threshold value to 6 to keep the glow effect cleaner and more controlled. Finally, I selected the volume cube and went to the shader editor. I animated the smoke to rise up. Once the animation was finished, it was time to render the final scene. In the Output Properties tab, I increased the resolution scale to 50% for a cleaner and sharper result. I also changed the frame rate to 60 frames per second to make the particle motion and camera movement appear much smoother and more cinematic. From the Output panel, I selected the folder where I wanted to save the render and named the file. Then I changed the output format to video and set the container type to MPEG-4. Finally, I went to the render menu and rendered the final animation. And that's it for this project. If you enjoyed this cinematic workflow and want to see more Blender tutorials like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.